Hi, today once again I just want to discuss further on my books. I think one of the topics that I want to cover today is the issue of the free will, because this is one of the topics that I think we are not taught so much at our churches, and yet everything else boils down to free will. I mean, the mere fact, disobedience, sin, everything else stemmed from the existence of a free will, the given free will. God is kind, God is loving, God is faithful, God is true. And He gave us free will, and free will is what distinguishes us from all other living beings. The mere fact that we can identify with right and wrong is a good thing. It's a wonderful gift. Free will is a wonderful gift from God. And yes, and yet our biggest challenge in life is free will. Free will is our biggest challenge, because free will means that whatever we exercise to make decisions or to choose whether we go with right or wrong was given freely. Nobody had to work for free will. We were created, we were formed in time, and we had free will. The reason why God would say to them in the garden, eat from all the trees, but from that tree you shall not touch it. You shall not eat of it, let alone touching it. You don't even touch that very tree, because God knew at that very moment that these people have a free will, and out there is evil. So one of the things that we struggle with in life and in time, the biggest challenge that we have is free will. Our leadership was taken from us, informed by this free will. Divorces take place in marriages because of this free will. Greed has taken over our world because of this free will. Wars are taking place in our world because of this free will. And this free will gets taken away at death. When we die, you can't free will your way back into life. Once we die, the free will is taken from us, because God has also identified that human beings struggle with a free will. That free will is the only part in human beings that distinguishes us, that gives us superiority over other living beings. So we need to watch out for it, because the sins that we commit, everything else that does not line up with the Word of God and God's plan for our lives, is informed by a free will. So we don't usually get a lot of sermons at our churches on the issue of a free will, and yet the free will informs everything else. Leaders in our world, whatever decisions that they make at the end of the day they are informed by a free will. In your marriage, whether you do good or bad, you are informed by your free will. Free will is free, and it is important for us to exercise that free will in obedience to God. And whatever we do should favor our fellow beings. Wherever we are, we need to revisit our thoughts and the decisions of yesterday in order to line everything else with the will of God. When Christ was in the Garden of Eden, he cried out to God. He said, "Not my will, but your will, Father." Because free will was a challenge for him. God's will was that Christ should die, but he is struggling in the flesh. He is struggling with thoughts. He is trying to bring those thoughts into the obedience of God. And he is struggling from his personal capacity. And he's crying out to God. He says, "Not my will, Father, but your will." Free will was also a challenge for Jesus. Free will is our biggest problem. We need to call on God to guide us and guard us so that we can exercise this free will justly, righteously, and in obedience to God. And in the midst of all that is happening in our world, exercise that free will and line it up with the will of God. And guess what? When Christ called and said, "Not my will, Father, but your will," meaning lining up this fear that he felt with the will of God, that fear had to be overcome. He overcame fear, because even Satan, when he fell outside time, and even Eve and Adam when they fell, even when we fall, we exercise the free will. Free will always, free will always. God will never take that away from you. The only thing that you can do is to acknowledge and to be cautious, aware, fully aware that you have a free will and you need to exercise it right. Your biggest problem is the free will. That's one of the things that I discuss in this book. Everything else is collapsing around us because of the free will. Thank you. Visit my YouTube channel, Sabelo Fet. And thank you for listening again. God bless you.